Hi everyone, it's Tegan. For the prompt this week about the two parents who are genetically selecting for a deaf kid or are trying to, I would say that if you were to look at this situation from the medical model of disability, that you would say that obviously being deaf is a disability and that it's something that should be fixed or avoided. So when you were someone who was on that standpoint would say that it is wrong morally to select for deafness because you would be putting purposely having a child that is put in a situation that is wrong or that is not that you shouldn't be doing. If anything, they'd probably want you to select for deafness and then avoid that if you could. If you look at it from the social model, which kind of says recognizes that disability is a thing, but it also blame society for the reason that disability is such a big thing, saying that they impose able-bodied standards on disabled people in a sense. I'd say you can kind of see that in the part of the prompt about deaf children born to hearing parents who are really left out of family experiences and who are just kind of isolated. I think that would be a big thing about the social and how there's not a lot of society's putting that feeling of isolation on the kids because they aren't trying hard. They simply just really can't understand what the kid is going through. I would say that this, if you're looking at it from the standpoint, it would be morally wrong, I think, to do any sort of genetic testing for that, because that would be saying, if you went for that, you would either be selecting for or against deafness. And I think if you're saying society is the problem, then you wouldn't impose that on the kid when they were born. So you would just let the child be born and then I guess let them be grow up how they're going to grow up. And if they have a disability, then you figure that out through socially, and if they don't, then you accept that also. So I think it's more accepting of that identity. For cultural identity, I guess that's the main point of the prompt, and that's what these parents are feeling, is that they see being deaf as a cultural thing, and that you have to be deaf in order to experience that, because there's just a deeper level of understanding among people who also are unable to hear and who are left out of a lot of those situations. This model disability would obviously say that it is okay to genetically select for deafness because that is important to them, and that if you had to have a hearing child, that it would be really difficult to integrate them into your culture because they just are unable to understand, even if they grow up doing sign language and all those things. Personally, I don't think that you should be able to do this, because if it's wrong to genetically select for any other trait or all the other traits, I think it should also be wrong to purposely try to have a deaf kid or avoid having a deaf kid, because then you're making you're either saying that being deaf is better, even though there are a lot of limitations that come with that, or you're saying that being hearing is obviously better and that it's wrong to have a deaf child. And I think both of those are wrong. Or I think those viewpoints are both a little too, you're kind of choosing the extreme when you're selecting for a kid, a specific level of ability in a child. So I would say that parents should not be able to do this.